Welcome home, dearest Brava baby, to Do You Believe in Brava, the interview series where I, Talia Brava, personal growth leader of the next generation, meet with stars from across the spiritual personal world to try their practices, feel their vibe, and most importantly, ask them, do you believe in Brava? In Brava, in Brava, in Brava, in Brava. We have boundaries and infinite supply. Okay, I want to talk about boundaries because I did hear from one of your podcasts you used to work for a family biz, and I'm like in the process of like divorcing myself from that. It's very challenging. And I also want to talk about infinite supply because I think that that is something that comes up for all of us, a lot of us, when we think about creating a new paradigm where we're making 10K a month. Okay, before I get into like, I'm so excited that I could literally just talk at you, but that's not the intention of this conversation. Welcome you to the Brava Baby community. Is there anything that you, Kelly, would like to share about what has brought you to this moment in your career and life? Like just as, you can go as lengthy or as concise as you like, but just as a high end to this cult community, what's brought you here?
Oh my gosh, it's going to be fairly concise and simple, but it's also one of the most challenging things. And it's following your gut, like trusting your intuition and doing things even if it doesn't make sense. Because so many pieces on my journey, like they did not make logical sense whatsoever, but they were the exact things that I needed in order to get where I am.
I love this. Okay, trusting things that don't make sense, quote unquote. When did you discover that you had sort of like psychic abilities, intuitive abilities? What was that process like for you?
Yeah, so I had like my first kind of like spiritual awakening back when I want to say 14 was like the big year, but I remember even before that, I had this book and it was all on divination, and I was into like palmistry and cartomancy and all that stuff. And I was a really like intuitive kid, and I would like play with Ouija boards and everything from like a really young age. So I didn't really consider myself intuitive or psychic back then. And that didn't actually come out until after I started my coaching business, because I had so much like resistance around like claiming that. Yes. But I think it was sort of like with me the entire time. I was just sort of like, I thought that stuff was reserved for special people. I didn't think that, like, I thought that was like a superpower that only certain people had. And I'm like, oh, okay,
1,000%. And I think the more you start to play with it, right? Like a lighter touch. Like the other day, I just was like, I'm going to be a psychic. And I was like, what am I thinking? To this girl I didn't even know. She's like, I don't know. She asked something random. I was thinking of banana ice cream. She's like, I had banana ice cream for the first time yesterday. And I was like, oh, life goal, I'm a psychic. So it's like, I think being playful and light with these things is helpful.
Yeah. I found I'm going to put my headphones in because my dog's being a dick. I found the lighter you go with that stuff, the easier it is for everything to open up. Let me know. Okay?
I can hear you
Perfect.
well.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, so darling, what's really hilarious to me is Katie Northup, who wrote a money book. The only money book I've ever read is from her. She just went live, and whenever I see another bitch go live on Instagram at the same time as me, I know that's my direct competition. So hello, Katie Northup. And what she talks about a lot is the money story, right? Like the story that we were raised with, that we sort of have in the back, that's our programming. LOL at the end, she tries to sell you on her MLM. Like, bitch, like, believes in herself. I love that. But Cutie, tell me what was/is a money story that you've had to overcome, and then maybe what's one that you see coming up for other people.
Okay, so the biggest one I had to overcome is that you have to work really hard to make money, because that's what I saw all around me, and that's a really common one too. But I come from like an entrepreneurial family, working in the family business, but the model that I saw was you're at the office at like 6 a.m, 7 a.m, and you're the last one to leave. Yeah. And the more stressed out you are, the better person you are, because that means you're working extra hard and that you deserve fucking money. Oh, sorry. Can I swear on here?
No, okay. You can swear, or you can let it all out.
Yeah, but that was the biggest thing. And like, I think for any of us who are like outside of the sphere of like the personal development world or spiritual development world, like that's a really common story, because that's what we see all around us in society. It's kind of like this whole story of like struggle and sacrifice, and after you do all the hard things, then you deserve to make money, which is complete bullshit.
1,000%. Also, like, I love what you talk about, that you don't have to do all the things. Like, do things that feel fucking good to you. Like, it should turn you on to be working on your business. It should be like, ooh, this is great. I love it. It's juicy. It's exciting. I started over quar because I have like, less
less running around. It was like a great social experiment for myself. I started to say, like, I'm taking up quantity. I'm going to send like 2 emails a day. It doesn't matter the quantity. What matters is that I'm really tuning in and my inner work comes first. And I'm tuning into that person's energy and I'm vibing with it and I'm getting excited about what I'm offering. And then I send an email and my response is like so much stronger.
Yeah, it's an energy thing. And that's why, like, when it comes to marketing, like, you don't need to be showing up like every single day, posting like X number of times a day and doing all the things and like checking things off of boxes, because like if you're into that and it feels good, that's one thing. But for most people, that can just be really exhausting. It can be like kind of like, ugh, like not cool. Whereas if you can get your energy behind sharing things when you actually feel called to share them, and then like as long as you're doing it consistently, that's the main thing. And people are going to feel that.
So what are you learning about the people who are attracted to your work? Because I do feel like when you're sharing from this like authentic place, those people are beautiful mirrors of where you are, what you're offering. So what have your clients taught you?
Oh my gosh. So many things. I learn things like on every client call, like every interaction that I have like on Facebook feels like a learning experience. But I think like the biggest thing is just going deeper into who you really are and just allowing yourself to be more you. And something I've seen like in my own journey as well, like just when I feel like I'm being like my most authentic self and I'm like, this is it, I'm being 100% real. There's another layer. There's always another layer and always another layer. And it's not about like sharing like really personal things or airing your dirty laundry or getting like vulnerable, those like fucking like vulnerable shares and stuff like that. Exactly. Right. Yeah. It's not so much that, it's just allowing yourself to just be the same person you are online as you are offline.
And I love that too, because it's like maybe the person you are like really fucking believes in yourself and has like high confidence. Like this whole Brene Brown thing of like, oh, show your falls. It's like, great, sure, show your falls, but also show your successes. And like, why do we only have to show like when we're like falling over? Like, fuck you if you can't handle me when I'm like thriving.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel as women that can be really challenging because we don't want to be braggy. Like we don't want to come across as like, oh, who does she think she is? Like a lot of us have stories that we learn from when we're very young that we're not going to be liked if we stand out too much.
1,000%, my darling. That's why this whole personality was created, to be honest. So I have a friend, Gabby Dunn, who has a podcast called Bad with Money. And she like stopped me on the street one time. It was like I was at my local cafe and she like put a mic in my face and I was like, talk to me, like I'm on. So she was interviewing people cold on the street. Would you rather show me your bank statement, like your checking, or would you rather tell me your favorite position in bed? And it was like a test to see like where do people have more public shame around their sexual preferences or money. And I was like, bitch, let me show you. And I had no money in a bank account. And I remember feeling like really badass because I was like, I'm not ashamed. But then I was like, if I had a lot of money, maybe I would be ashamed. So do you see like a barrier of the fear of actually being successful in that way coming up for people?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I see a lot of it rooted in is a fear of not being safe. And people think like if they have money, it's one thing to have it, but if other people know that, then they could get robbed. They could like have family issues. They could have people coming out of the woodwork expecting them to pay for it. It just creates this whole feeling of like uncertainty and like fear around being seen with money.
It's so real. Okay, darling. So I listened to one of your podcast episodes this morning on manifesting a stroke. So I really wanted to get into this because I like to imagine that like the good shit I manifested, like my gorgeous apartment, and the bad shit happened to me because God hates me. But it seems to me like you're implying that we manifest everything. So would you say it's like an all or nothing game? Like what is your relationship with what we attract into our lives?
Ooh, that's a good question because there's a lot of stuff that happens to people that I don't think like they did that to themselves. Like you look at people who are victims of like rape and abuse and things like that. And I think it's like, ew, like I don't think we can say like, oh, well, there's something within you that attracted that. Like, fuck no. Yes. But generally speaking, I feel like we're a lot more powerful than we think when it comes to attracting different like situations and circumstances. And there's always going to be outside influences that we have no control over. But for a lot of the things that we're experiencing, it just has to do with the energy that we're putting out.
So unfortunately, it's not a simple answer.
No.
When I look at life, like the universe is like not simple. Anytime someone's like, here's a simple answer, it's like, I subscribe to it completely. I buy all their books and then I realize it's not the only answer.
Well, that's the thing. I think like we're human and the universe is this big, infinite, like mystical, magical place. And like I have my ideas around like how I think things work, but the fuck do I know? Like, that's coming from like my own experience, right?
Yeah.
So like everyone has their own different way of interpreting things. And I don't feel like people's belief systems are invalid just because they're different. But I come from like the school of like, if it works for you and it's helping you create the life that you want, then stick with it.
1,000%. And that's not like I feel like the true coach. Like there are coaches who are like want to be your god or tell you what to do, but then there are those who want you to tap into what you know so that you can go like actually live in alignment. My darling, so when you think about this idea of the stories, letting them go, all the different blocks in terms of like feeling safe with money, feeling like we're valued, like we are worth it, like how do you practice with yourself on those unconscious beliefs? Like how do you root them up and work with them?
So I'm a big fan of bringing awareness to the little things throughout the day. So say, for instance, I get like a tax bill or something in the mail and I open it up. What I do is I notice how I'm feeling like when I look at it, when I open it up, like what are the feelings coming up? What am I feeling in my body? Because that's when you're going to actually be able to catch things. So if you're feeling like, at least for me, it's like tightness, this weird like contractive energy, maybe a little sick to your stomach. And then you just catch yourself and be like, oh, wow, that's really interesting. I'm noticing this sensation in my body when I'm presented with this money stuff. So what's going on there? And then I'll look into the story. Like the thought that's in my mind is, if it's from the government, I might be in trouble. Like in trouble. I've never been in trouble with the government before in my life. So where's that story coming from? Okay, so I can see in my past where I saw this example, that example. And then what I like to do is just kind of like really rationalize things and help my mind like just calm down when it comes to like money stuff, especially. It's like, okay, so is this absolutely true? If I open this bill, does it mean that I'm going to be in trouble with the government, or is it going to be something that I can't handle? Probably not, right? And so I just kind of like allow myself to calm down by telling myself like, it's a story that's playing, for one thing, and bringing awareness to that. And then just being really logical and realistic. Like it's a piece of paper with some writing on it. I'm going to open it up and that's all it is. And then I'm going to read what's on it. And I'm going to deal with what's coming up next when I get to that stage. And I kind of like just like talk myself through it like I would like with a little kid. Like, it's all right. We're just going to take some baby steps.
It's like what's so beautiful that you just articulated is it's like on a literal sense you are doing that. Like a childhood fear might be popping up and you're like, let's talk to this emotional side of me that doesn't understand like the facts that I can now lay out about where we are and what's happening.
Yeah, because most of the beliefs of stuff, especially around money, we pick them up before we're 7 years old. So we really are dealing with our little inner child. And so I get like, there's some people that they want to like attack these like limiting beliefs and annihilate them. I'm like, well, what if we just like come at them from like a loving place and talk to yourself like you would a little kid? Because it's a lot easier to like, you know, have a rational conversation when you're calm and as opposed to when you're freaking out.
I mean, this makes all the sense in the world to me because when I was 7, my brother was always like doing really bad trades with me. He's like, I'll give you like, you can like hang out with me for like 10 minutes if you give me all your Halloween candy. And I was like, yes. So like, I was always getting fucked. Like, so Charlie, I want to think about like I've been thinking about selling because I'm taking a media cleanse. I'm like, it's been really weird to not be like constantly selling myself on the internet all day. So when you think about selling, I had this realization the other day. I was like, I don't want to have customers. I just want to have friends, whether they're like friends who are coaching clients, whether they're friends who like consume my content but we never meet, or they're like friends who we hang out and like have coffee. Like I want everyone to feel just like a friend. When you think about bringing in customers, like how do you think about that? Like what feels good and juicy for you about like the people that you're attracting into your world?
Cool. I love this question. So the way I come at it is, if money wasn't part of the equation, how would I be showing up? What would I be talking about? How would I be interacting with people? Because I feel like in business, it's so easy to look at people as like transactions, especially like if you have bills to pay and rents due. It's like, oh, I wonder if that sales call is going to go well and I hope she gets back to me. And then if you just let go of all that and just say like, you know what, I'm going to connect with another human. It's going to be an amazing conversation. And if we're a good fit, we're a good fit. It's going to be fucking amazing. If not, it's totally cool. And when we just let go and detach like that, sales becomes so much easier because we're taking away all of like the weird clingy energy that we can build up around money really easily.
I have to say, Kelly, you are like the future me that I hope to one day become. And I also started off this conversation by saying like, yes, like she's still detaching from the family biz. Like I've had the great fortune and the also like horrible gift of like my mother being a coach. And so like my altar has worked for her my whole adult life, which has been amazing because I've like become a coach, like, and learn incredible skills. But like, who fucking wants to work for their mom, right? Like, the boundaries part is like blah, and like we both don't like it. It's not like I'm saying anything that she wouldn't say. Like, it doesn't work. It doesn't fucking work. And you, in your story, came from working for the family biz. So what was that transition to really trusting? And you talk about this a lot, but like taking that leap to trusting you can help own this biz. Like, you can, like, side note, your last podcast, the only financial goal I've ever set out for myself, I made last week. It was for 10K a month. And then you dropped a podcast, they kind of make 10K a month. It was like, oh, I love. So yeah, talk to me about that jump for you in your storyline. How did that happen?
So that took years. That took years and years. And I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I knew I didn't want to be in that business. And I had so much shame and so much guilt for wanting to leave a really good place because there wasn't anything wrong with it. Like, I had great coworkers. The job was like good. Like, I knew it inside out. Like, I had everything sort of like handed to me. And yes, I worked, but I also knew that I was really privileged to be able to have that opportunity. So leaving that felt horrible. And I was also looking for something that would provide me with safety and security because I was terrified of like venturing out into like the real world away from that business. And so I thought about like joining the military. I came like this close to joining the Air Force, which is laughable now because like I can't even imagine now. But I left a couple times.
There though. You're like, Amelia Earhart, why not?
Yeah. I was like, why not? I like super cute uniforms and I'm going to get really buff. That was like the thought process in my 20s. That's where I was at. But I kept like, every time I almost left, I would get scared and I would stay. And then finally, my dad had retired. He sold the company to another company. So I didn't have to see him daily because that was really hard. And even though we had conversations and he knew it wasn't where I wanted to be, it was so emotionally hard for me to like not be there with him. And so I stayed for a couple of years after he sold the company. And it got to the point where, again, like nothing was really wrong, but I knew if I was ever going to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, it wasn't going to be when I was there because it was so safe. So I went and I got a job at Tim Hortons, which is like Dunkin' Donuts down in the States.
Yeah.
So my manager thought I was batshit crazy because I'm walking away from like a really good job with benefits, with holidays, to go serve coffee for minimum wage and wear like a little visor and brown uniform. But yeah, that was the leap. The big leap was moving into a job that I was just able to think and to breathe. And then from there, I worked a couple of odd jobs. I ended up starting my own cleaning business back in 2013. And again, like it was always like following the breadcrumbs and following the nudges I was getting, because there was a time when I thought I was going to be like the next Molly Maid and I was going to have this huge cleaning business empire. And that felt really aligned.
Oh my God. What I love about this is, like, side note, actually during this time, what you were learning was how to guide people to make these leaps.
Yeah. Yeah. And moving through the fear, because the fear thing is something like is so near and dear to my heart, and it's always going to be with us no matter what level we're moving into. But I know fear so well. Like, it's like my buddy, my little best friend. Yeah. So through that process, it was just, again, trusting myself and leaping, and that whole like cheesy thing around like the net will appear when you leap. I just took that on as something that it was just going to be part of my life. And I'm like, no, this is what I'm going to do.
And I had, what I love about the story too, is like, you really put your ego to the side. You gave it up. Like to go like from having like a high profile job to like selling coffee. Like, a lot of people I feel like don't make that leap because they think they're like going backwards. And I like to think of life as like a spiral. Like, you might be like, oh, I was serving coffee in my first job and now I'm serving it again. But who am I in this place? Like, I have elevated.
Yeah, exactly. And the personal growth that happened and spiritual growth that happened throughout that entire process, like I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like, I would go back and serve coffee again if I knew I was going to up level the way that I did during that experience.
Amazing. Darling, when you think about like money and love, like has anything shifted in your relationship with like receiving love as you've learned to receive money better? Is there anything that's crossed over for you there?
Yeah, the big thing is giving up control, because which is not easy for me. I admit it. I am a total control freak. Yeah. And in like relationships in the past, like I always felt like I needed to have like the upper hand and I need to be the one in control. So I was the one who did the breakups. I was the one who kind of like ran the show, and I attracted partners that were okay with that. But what I noticed, especially when I got into business and the money stuff started coming in, it was the more I let go and the more I learned how to lean back in my feminine and just allow myself to receive, the easier the money flowed. And then I also started attracting more men who were in their masculine, and I got to be in my feminine in the relationship. And that was a whole beautiful experience that I didn't have before.
Oh my gosh, my darling, you're speaking to me so strongly. Because I always say I want the Jay-Z to my Beyonce, but it's like, do you really, boo? Like, are you really allowing that in? And then I love, too, like, the idea of, like, seducing money towards us. You know, like, I feel like as a woman, like, there's this feeling of, like, put on the pants, like, make the money. Like, the only way to make money is, like, to play this, like, way that it has been played. But it's, like, to play it as a whip. So let's talk about, what do you define as a whip? Because I know, like, I love that you lean into that and you're like, you know, like you don't shy away from that word. What has been your relationship with claiming it, and what does it mean to you?
Oh my gosh. So yeah, this started back when I was a kid. I was 14 when I first got into witchcraft, and that's when the whole movement was experiencing a bit of a boom. We had like a lot of books coming out around Wicca and witchcraft, and then things like The Craft and Practical Magic and movies like that made it like super cool and popular. Yeah. And so I really claimed it back then. And I remember I was doing speeches in high school on witchcraft, and like I was fucking like owning it. And then I got into like, I went through this phase where spirituality got put on the back burner and I wasn't into it whatsoever. Then I got into like drugs and partying and like really bad life choices. And I ended up moving into Christianity. So the witch thing definitely went like on the back burner then. And then I got back into it a few years ago. And for me, it's just like such an empowering word. And I know like in the past, it hasn't exactly been a positive thing, but for me, it just feels so empowering. And when I think of the word witch, like, it's hard to pin down like an actual definition, but the way I see it, it's someone who is okay knowing that there's more than just what meets the eye. And it doesn't mean that we have to understand everything that's going on in the spirit realm or understand like astrology and crystals and herbalism and all the things that people might think of when they think of a witch. But it's just being open to the fact that there's more than meets the eye, and that we have the awareness and openness to connect with that in a way that feels good for us.
Open to the mystery.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm the channel of, like, directly God, Brava, like, I channel God, so, like, I don't have any curiosity, but I, like, love curiosity in others. Like, because it really is, like, somebody said, I can't remember who, that, like, the quality of your life is, like, the quality of your questions. And I do think that your relationship with the universe is that way. Like, can we ask a more juicy question, a more exciting question, you know? So, okay, if you were to, like, chat with the universe right now, like, side note, like, I do channel God, so... But, like, what is, like, the juiciest question? Like, if you had, like, infinite intelligence at your fingertips, which you do, what question are you really like, oof, this is the question that, like, is getting me excited right now?
I want to know what else is out there. Like, I don't have a big connection to like aliens and things off the planet Earth, because that doesn't really feel like the zone that I want to play in. But I'm also fascinated, and I just want to see how big things go. Like, if I could like hitch on like a magic carpet ride with the universe and kind of like tour around, I think that'd be so cool.
Oh, that's a great ask. Oh, I love that one. You don't even need three more wishes. Let's just like travel. Let's just like do a little bus tour. Just a little tour. Just let me come back knowing that. So, my darling, when you think about, like, the new paradigm that we're walking into, because I do think that it's your time, like, I'm just going to say it, like, it is a new paradigm moment. If you're playing by the old rules, like, L'Chaim, I'm so sorry, like, good that you were good at them, because, like, I wasn't, but, like, we're moving fucking on, and, like, the only people who should be mourning are those who, like, aren't open to wonder. So, you know, sorry if you're mourning, like, the fall of the systems that have been, but we're building a new system of money in exchange, I believe. What do you foresee? If you could just like have your moment to be like little visionary psychic moment, what do you see as what we are moving into in terms of money and the whole game?
I see it as being less important than it ever has been in the past. And I see a world where people are like getting back to nature and growing their own food, and probably getting back to like trading and bartering. And yes, we're still going to have money and currency, but I feel like it's going to take a back seat. Like, we're moving out of this paradigm right now where I'm picturing like the 80s, like the power suits and like the the whole 80s were like a vibe when it came to money, right? And we're getting back to like almost like going back to like, I'm thinking of like almost like medieval times, but without all like the bad stuff and way more hygiene.
I love, and it's so true. It's like, you know, the boomers are like, they're like, for me, like, I'm so heartbroken for them and they have no idea. Like, it's like, everyone I know is like in a conversation with their mother right now who's like, just like, the DNC is making me weep. And I'm like, I can't even fucking watch this. Like, it's like it's such a dinosaur. Like, I can't watch this dinosaur, like, dying anymore. I need to be thinking of a new future. And like, at the same time, my darling, I feel like I'm having this realization that being present is actually being with every timeline, you know, like, so it's all happening at the same time. And so we really can't deny our old stories. We can't deny our beliefs that we're like ready to move beyond. And like, that's going to inform and be part of us if we're present.
Yeah, that's cool. I love the idea of like multi dimensions that we get to move between and we're sort of in them all at the same time. But I see that as being like really cool because we can take our lessons that we're learning in each one and choose. It's almost like a choose your own adventure book. And we get to decide what we want to believe to be true moving forward, knowing that we always have the option to like play into old stories if we want to, or go back to things that feel comfortable if we're not ready to like sort of like advance to that next level.
Yes. And you are someone who has gone through many lifetimes. Like the fact that in this conversation I've already heard like there was the girl who worked for the family and was scared and really knew fear. There was the person who went into like drugs and alcohol probably because you were looking for something fucking more, right?
Yep.
Then you went into religion and then you really like claimed this like this part of you that was there as a child. If you look towards the future and you see like your next evolution, what do you hope for the next evolution to have in store for you?
Oh my gosh. The big thing right now is just like inner peace has been coming up so much for me lately. And not that I feel like I'm in like this weird, like tormented place or anything like that, but I've been putting like so much more emphasis on meditation and just like no matter what else, inner peace has to come first. So with my business stuff, with relationships, if I don't feel at peace, then things have to change.
Oh, so good. So good. And it is like, it's the horrible gift of this strange moment is we do have that opportunity to go in a little bit more. And I heard you speaking about being empathic and introvert, and I so relate because even though like I can be on public sphere, I need so much time alone. And so it is nice to have that opportunity to like prioritize that.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like, I love being around people, but the amount of alone time I require to feel like I function as a really good human it's obscene compared to most people.
Some people call me and I'll like a friend will call me at like 3 and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm nonverbal. They like laugh because it's like how I like literally I'm like, I need to be nonverbal now. It's a wall, you know, it comes on. So when you think about like your evolution, I think one of the things that stops people from evolving and like getting into their most like amazing next level of themselves is the fear that they're going to lose friends, because honestly that happens. So like, how have you seen your community shift and what is your community feeling like now?
It feels so aligned right now. Like there was a time in the past where things felt definitely off. And I know I was attracting people who were all sorts of fabulous in their own way, but they weren't really like my people. Yeah. And definitely like on this note of like losing people or letting people go and things like that as you grow and expand, it happens to everyone. And it's one of those things I feel it's not really talked about enough in the coaching space or the personal development space because we don't want to sound like snobs, I think, at least for me. Like I didn't want to sound like a snotty bitch saying like, oh, you know, I'm at a higher frequency than you, because it's not like that, but on the same level, it kind of is like that. So I think it's just normal, like that we outgrow people, and it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with them whatsoever. It just means like we're just different and we just don't have that much in common. It's kind of like I remember back in the day when I was doing drugs every weekend, like I don't talk to those people anymore. And they were great people in their own way, apart from like the drug addiction. But I mean, like we just grew apart because we just didn't have that much in common anymore. So it's the same thing no matter what path you're on. It's normal for people to come and go. And I think it's important to remember that, again, it's coming back to that detachment and not getting clingy around things and allowing people to come in and be where they need to be for the moment and then letting them go when it's their time.
I love this, my darling, because I feel I'm a recovering clinger. But the funny thing is, when I'm actually honest with myself, which I've had the opportunity to be with all this alone time and self-discovery time, I really had this aha that like, oh, I'm fine with moving on and being like, and now on to the next great relationships. But if other people, I'm like, if people do that ahead of me or in a different sync than me or just more clearly than I am doing, I will get like fumey and I'll be like, oh, we were best friends. Remember that one time we went camping and like that fucking bitch. And I'm so angry inside myself. So I just come to that realization. I'm like, if you want to be free to evolve, you have to just recognize it's not, there's no judgment either direction. If they think it's a judgment, that's on them, but I don't see it as a judgment. We're moving into different spheres right now, and that's okay. So I'm learning that. And I think it's helping me evolve faster, you know, like letting communities go into the background and knowing that like I might circle back and that might feel really exciting to me again. Who knows?
Yeah, and it's really like Abraham Hicks talks about all the time, like going with the flow and like not swimming upstream all the time and just allowing life to move you. Like we still have control over what's happening. We can still bend and shape our reality, but there's still this balance between doing that and letting go and letting life just lead you where you need to go next.
And I think the thing is, the more in the flow you get, the more when you're not in the flow, those rocks like hit you in the fucking head. It becomes almost like laughable how obvious things become. So what's a way that like is there a recent story where you like overrid your instincts or intuition and you did something and then life was like, nope, get back online?
Yeah, I won't share like too many personal details, but with romantic relationships, that's where it comes up the most, because what I'll do is I'll tend to like, I don't love dating and I'm really happy being single. So it's not something I have a ton of experience in. But what I noticed is that I was trying to show up in current relationships as the version of me who was in relationships, say 5 years ago. And it was like, whoa, okay, this doesn't work whatsoever. And so I'd be with someone, I'm just like, this is a hard no. Like, I don't know what I was thinking, but this is just a hard no. Like, not gonna happen.
Wow, that's so interesting. Because it's true. We sort of like circle, like I'm very similar. Like I'm such a single pod and like I'm so like blissful like in my work and like I get off on like being creative. Like I really truly do. I call myself a cosmosexual. I get off on like birthing universes. So like I don't really fucking need it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like hungry for the apps. Like I'm not like trying to have that next date at all. So it's true. I date very infrequently. And when I do, it's almost like the old pattern. It's like, oh, this is how you do it. And it's really good to just know like it can be completely different.
Yeah.
Woo! So with that in mind, you don't have to share anything too personal. I would just like to hear just in terms of like the evolution of this moment. There's an evolution of the currency. I also think there's an evolution of love and relationships. Like what do you see for yourself as you move into the Kelly that like the next level Kelly in relationships? Like what does that dynamic want to feel like for you?
Oh gosh, right now traditional relationships don't feel particularly good for me. Like I like the idea of one partner for like a long period of time. Like that idea appeals to me, but I know myself, like that just hasn't really felt really true. Like when I ask myself, like when I ask my soul and like go within, I see myself as being alone and also having a partner, but not necessarily in the traditional way. So more of like a supportive friend who we probably have some other types of relationship stuff going on, but nothing like a marriage or anything too traditional.
I mean, like Oprah was like so ahead of this game. She was just like, I listen to my soul and I'm not into marriage. And like that was so revolutionary, you know? So
yeah.
I think it's exciting. It's exciting, and also for me personally, like that's one of those like cord cutting from the story that I have to do, because I just dreamed about my fairy tale wedding every single day when I was a child. Like I just implanted that dream in myself, and then with the help of everyone else in the world helping me do that. But I think that's very revolutionary.
Yeah, I was one of those kids. I never wanted to get married. And I knew when I was 8 years old that I didn't want to have kids, but I also wanted to be a housewife because I was obsessed with being like June Cleaver from like Leave It to Beaver. So I would like get these books on like from the 60s on how to be like a good housewife. And they were like how-to manuals. And I was obsessed. And then I was like, I grew up, I'm like, I really don't want a husband or kids. So how's this going to work? And so now that's probably why I started a cleaning business. It's probably like just ingrained.
You can just take the style though. I feel like that's a good look for you. That retro look. All right. So what are you, oh, gosh, I have so many questions. What's your greatest hope for like this, but I'm just going to say for me, the political game feels so tired. I'm like really hoping and wishing that we move into a consciousness where our spiritual leaders just side note become the guides, because I feel like no civilization really lasts unless there's like wisdom at the top. And right now, all we have is sociopaths who are like trying to make money. And like the fact that like a Mark Zuckerberg, who has like no moral compass at all and is the person to tell you has like the most power in the multiverse, is like not a good sign. So like my deepest hope is that we just sort of pivot and we like turn the tables on power by like just telling them that they're not powerful to us. Start listening to spiritual guidance and really tuning into what feels right and building our world in that way. That's my little high horse. What do you feel like when you look at like the political socio system? What's your hope for it?
Yeah, I think we're on the same page with that. And a word that's come through really strongly, like in my meditations over the past few years, has been revolution. And I see that happening like on a global scale, because people like we're waking up, and especially with the internet, we're not like stupid. Like we have access to so much information and we can see what's going on. It's right there in front of us. And I think if enough people like start speaking out and standing up for what they know is true and what's right, we're going to see that shift. We're going to think like we're going to see things change. And it might not happen overnight, but again, like it's a process. And the more we just keep at it and the more we just like come back to this truth that like we know what's right and wrong, and what's wrong is right in front of us. So we're the ones that get to change this with our votes, with our money, with all the things.
I love it. It is the power to the people moment. I don't care what the algorithm tries to do to us. We are powerful. We are creators. There's a thought that keeps coming in and then escaping me, and it's like right on the tip of my tongue. There's like one question that I really want to. Oh yeah, okay, here it is. So, ritual work. What would you give us as any advice around like shifting our relationship with money via ritual?
Oh, I would say something as easily or something as simple rather as like lighting a candle on Thursdays, because Thursdays are like money days when it comes to magic. But like lighting a green candle, sitting in front of it on a Thursday and just creating some space and time for yourself to focus on money. And you can do some journaling around any stories that are coming up around why you can't have the money you want. You can visualize the different things that you like want to spend money on as far as experiences and desires, but just get used to getting comfortable with money, because so many people like they don't want to look at it like they want it, but they don't want to deal with it.
Oh my God, I know. It's like this weird relationship where it's like, just give it to me, but then don't talk about it. It's like you're like asking to like have sex with someone. You're like fuck me, but like never see my face. Like, no, that's weird. Like, look at it. So like, yeah, I love that. Sitting, okay, Thursdays, a green candle, sit, and really like what you're really speaking of is just bring your focus to it and like sit with it and sit with what comes out.
Exactly. Especially sit with what's uncomfortable. Like if it's uncomfortable for you to look at your bank balance or to open up your bills, that right there is the opportunity to do some work around money. And the more we face it and the more we get really real with it, the less scary it becomes. And then energetically things shift and we're able to receive more when we don't have this weird, like little, like, holy fuck, it's money, eek energy around it.
Yes, I love this. Oh my darling, this has been such a delightful conversation. Well, before I ask you our final question, I really want to make sure that everybody knows how to get obsessed with you. So I know you have a program opening. Is it still open? Like, what do we do? How do we get obsessed with you? And like, yeah, all the things.
Awesome. So the best place is over on Instagram, or here on Instagram, I should say, at I am Kelly Dawn. I'm on stories all the time. I'm pretty active over here on this platform. And I also have a Facebook group called the Biz Witch Society.
And I love that because you do these lives that are great. And you know, like, this is the thing. I was like my alter tried to go live the other day when she was like not feeling it, and it was like so forced and can. And then I came on and I was like, Instagram live does not lie, only you do. So please tell the truth. Like when you're live, people feel you so hard, which I love.
Yeah.
I love that there's no editing. You know, it's like it's beautiful. So like, do watch the lives. I feel like you really do like share and like offer so much guidance in that way.
Well, thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, so I have one final question, and I don't want you to feel pressured at all. It's just like the name of the show. That's kind of a big deal. Do you believe in Brava?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Another feather for my flower crown. I'm so grateful to you. Thank you for taking this time with us as a community. You offer so much guidance, and I am looking forward to my first 10K month booze. Let's get it. So much love.
Bye.